the White House that Trump did receive through the Pakistanis information that Iran may already have nukes. So that came as a surprise to me.
Well, they got it. They got it in two ways. First, the Pakistani foreign minister called Marco Rubio and told him. But when President Pezeshkian called the Pakistani foreign minister or prime minister and said, "Hey, Mr. Sharif, here's our position now." That phone call, unless they were using a secure line, which I don't think they were, that phone call was intercepted by NSA. So then the U.S. intelligence community, they had confirmation. It wasn't just, they didn't just have the piece that, this is what this Pakistani foreign minister told Marco. This is what Pezeshkian told Sharif. So they know that that Iran is dead ass serious about this.
So the way they got the information, so just to be for the audience, the president of Iran informed the prime minister of Pakistan, Sharif, that they now have nukes. And before Pakistan formally informed the US, that call was likely intercepted by the NSA, and that's how the US would have found out.
Yeah. Well, you have corroboration. So, from an intel standpoint, you'd say, if I'm the analyst writing, it's one thing to say, well, according to the communication of the foreign minister of Pakistan to Marco Rubio, the Pakistanis are claiming that Iran, is going to withdraw from all negotiations, will not consider any possibility of any agreement on nuclear weapons, and will do a demonstration, implying they've got a nuke. Now, again, Pepe and I were catching a little bit of shit when we came out with it. Do you know that? And it's like, guys, calm the fuck down. Because we're simply reporting what we got from a Pakistani source, that we have high confidence that this person who is providing the information was in a position to know these things and was not just some taxi cab driver or some secretary. That this is a person of considerable importance that would have been in a position to know this. So we're reporting that. Now, am I saying that Iran has a nuke? I personally don't know. I know what the source said, and I think the source's what he said was true. And then we've seen, as the thing I found most interesting about your conversation with Robert. I mean, it's all interesting, but the tone change in Donald Trump over since the weekend. Because in the past we've seen he was going to end the civilization, he's going to wipe them out, he's going to kick their ass all over the place. Now he's like, and then in the aftermath of that attack yesterday, again, the United States started that. That's the other disconnect here. The United States started it. They hit that one ship, took out its engine room, they hit the communication center. Then Iran said, "All right." They hit a ship connected to the United States, and then they went after the airfield in Kuwait and the military base. Now, the international airport received severe damage, and Iran saying, that wasn't us. That was a Patriot missile that went awry, which I absolutely believe to be most likely what happened. But regardless, the point of this is it's brought about a fundamental change in Trump's tone. And again, we were when we talked yesterday, we were wondering, was that conversation that Axios reported, was that true? Or but now Trump confirmed it. So,
we'll get to that. To that. So on the is it possible as well, I was thinking about it earlier, is it possible that it's in Iran's best interest to create, even if they don't have a nuke, making the enemy think they have a nuke also achieves the same purpose? So is it possible the story is being intentionally leaked by Iran as a way to scare the US?
Oh, and by Pakistan. Yeah, that's possible. You can't rule that
smart
out.
Strategy.
But But the point in making it, and this is a point that has been emphasized both by John Mearsheimer and by Ted Postel, which is that if Iran's going to make this kind of threat, it better have more than just one nuclear weapon.
Exactly. Someone told me that. Alan Ayer told me that today. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think, right now, if asked, do I think they do now? Yes. And the reason, but it's not. They haven't been having. It's not. Someone suggested earlier today. Well, was that an intelligence failure by the U.S. intelligence community? No, because last year Iran didn't have it, but the succeeding events, Israel's surprise sneak attack last June, then this latest iteration, the combination of the launching of the color revolution on December 28th to try to collapse the Iranian economy. And then Iran is still engaged in negotiations with Witkoff and Kushner. And while Witkoff and Kushner later came back and tried to say, oh, yeah, it sucked. No, we didn't make any progress. Well, the Omani foreign minister, I think it was the foreign minister, he had a completely 180-degree opposite view. He said, no, this was good. We're making progress. They make progress, and then bam, the United States wipes out the top level of the Iranian leadership, kills a bunch of 168 girls, among others, a number of civilians. And I think at that point, the new Ayatollah would have said, all right, we have to be prepared to defend ourselves now. And the only defense we're going to have is if we have a nuke. And did he tell his scientists and engineers get working on it? Did Iran need to get some enriched uranium, that 90% level that could be weaponized? That's possible. They could have got that from Pakistan, North Korea, Russia, China. It's unlikely that China would necessarily do that, but you never know. All we know is now we're in a new ball game right now.
So one of my guests today, I brought this up with, they brought it up with me, actually. They saw our interview. They said one thing, they don't believe Iran has a nuclear weapon, but they said if they did get one, his guess would be they could have anything that's also very plausible. They could have centrifuges that are disassembled, hidden somewhere, built over the last few decades for a time exactly like what we're going through today. That if we get into war with the US, and if they bomb our nuclear facilities, we'll put those centrifuges together and develop a nuclear warhead. So that's what one of my guests told me early today. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. And then another guest of mine said that from an intelligence perspective, the US and Israel would know relatively quickly if Iran was able to procure a nuclear weapon. I told him, I'm like, but there's been multiple examples of intelligence failures in this war. Missiles being depleted, the regime's going to collapse. So then if we had those intelligence failures, then how do we know there's no intelligence failure in this case as well? And he said something, and that could be something you can comment on. He's like, Mario, that's actually very possible. But generally, intelligence overestimates a threat rather than underestimates. So if there is an intelligence failure on this front, we'll be overestimating Iran's capabilities to build a nuclear weapon, not the opposite. You're former CIA, so this is your area of expertise.
Well, then how do you explain that over the last 20 years, they've underestimated the threat? Because they said
the Iran military capabilities.
Iran was not. I think the U.S. and even Israel had limited intelligence on the actual capabilities of Iran's underground cities. Now, Iran and Alistair Crook is, I think, the best source on this, because he's actually been in at least one of them. That the Iranians moved to start building these things during the immediate aftermath of the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq, because they could easily say, "Okay, we're next, and we can't be in a situation where all of our assets are above ground. We've got to put them underground and harden them in a way that they can't be hit by it. They're resistant to a nuclear attack. And that's exactly what they did. And, reflecting back on it, in 2000, I think the U.S. did have intelligence that was what Iran was doing, is around 2005, because it was in 2006 then that I was involved with a special operations forces exercise that was going after what they called hardened, deeply buried targets, HDBTs, which is the underground cities. So, and I think
Times, put a report about this today. They said today that, let me actually get it perfect timing. They said Iran may still have enough highly enriched uranium to build at least 10 nuclear bombs. We know that from earlier reports. The problem is nobody knows exactly where it is. The stockpile is believed to be buried deep underground near the Isfahan nuclear complex, potentially beyond the reach of even America's most powerful bunker buster bombs. That's the point
I think that's true. That's true. Welcome to the game. They're late. They're late.
The IAEA also said, even if they don't have a nuclear weapon, Iran's nuclear risk is now significantly higher than before the American-Israeli attacks. That's the IAEA publicly saying this today. And Bloomberg reported today, Western officials say the risk that Iran covertly pursues nuclear weapons is greater now than it was before the military strikes, before this war. So you got the IAEA formally announcing it and Bloomberg reporting.
Yeah, we used to call that at the CIA no shit analysis. Yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious.
No, that was about Russia. I had when I meet you, I interviewed the gentleman that was on Dmitry, that was on Danny Davis's show.
Yeah, the Dmitry Polyansky.
Yeah, Polyansky. Yeah, had it. So I've got a few questions on that. We had a discussion today. But before we move on to that, I just want to focus more on Iran. So then you've just mentioned what Robert Barnes was talking about, which is an interesting observation that he made, is that we're seeing that rhetoric change on Trump's side. And we saw that today. You saw the interview he did this morning. He was asked about the gay Ayatollah. He ignored the comment gay. He didn't kind of make fun of it. He didn't repeat it. He also said he respects. I haven't had the privilege of meeting the Ayatollah. He's not doing great. He's missing a lot of different parts. They say he's giving approval. We seem to get along quite well. And then he says the Ayatollah's involved. They have a lot of respect for him. And then he says we seem to be getting along quite well with the Ayatollah. I would like to meet him. I will probably meet him at some point. So this is Trump talking about the Ayatollah. For the first time that I've noticed, at least maybe once before, he had a post about it where he talked about him respectfully. But this is the first time where he's talking about the supreme leader in a respectful way. So that's an interesting point that comes after what you and Robert Barnes and Pepe are talking about, the reports from last week about the potential news for the likelihood that Iran may have procured a nuclear weapon. So that's interesting observation, isn't it? Linking it to Trump's behavior.
Yeah, look at it this way. If you're threatening somebody, and then all of a sudden you realize they have a gun, you're going to change your language. You're going to change your language. So you know what? I'm sorry about those insulting things I said. Let's see if we can talk this. Let's see if we can talk this out.
You see that in a lot of videos that come out, if someone's a tough guy, pulls out a gun. Oh, okay, senor, okay, sorry. There's a movie I saw. It's someone in Mexico, a cartel member just pulls out a gun, and the tough guy just goes, okay, senor, sorry. It's okay, calma.
Yeah. Calmate.
Exactly, there you go. So that's on Trump. And then later he does another interview where he's talking about Iran. That's actually, I'm going to read out his statements because, again, it aligns with what we were just saying now about the rhetoric changing. On Iran attacking Kuwait, he says this: well, there's a reason for everything. And we hit them pretty hard the night before. And actually last night, they were slightly provoked. They were reciprocating. I don't think I've ever seen him do this. He's giving excuses for Iran bombing Kuwait's airport.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. But let's be clear, it was Kuwait that bombed Kuwait's airport.
Oh, the Patriot. Yeah, Patriot. And then another one here. He says on the war in Iran, in that part of the world, a ceasefire is when you are shooting in a more moderate manner. He says that about the war because obviously they're asking him about what happened last night. He's like, a ceasefire there is when you when you're firing in a more moderate manner.
Yeah, we need to have the actor Manny Patinkin sit down with Trump. You remember he played in The Princess Bride when William Wallace Shawn was always saying, and this is inconceivable. And so here's Trump saying that, and Manny Patinkin should say, ceasefire, Mr. President. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Is that one of these guys?
Yeah, the middle one. The one standing, got Andre the Giant, then you got Manny Patinkin, and then Wallace Shawn is below him. And, because Wallace Shawn kept saying, inconceivable. And then Manny Patinkin is...
You mentioned it last time. Yeah.
One of the great lines out of that movie is, I don't think that word means what you think it means. And so here's Trump saying, ceasefire means you're just firing a little bit at each other. No, Mr. President, I don't think that word means what you think it means. That means there's no firing. When I'm on the firing line with students, and I say cease fire, that doesn't mean someone says, I just want to take one more shot. No, that means you stop shooting. That's what it means.
And then he says after it, the negotiation itself is going very well. It might not happen, but if it happens, it could happen over the next weekend. So obviously he's given multiple timelines, so that is pretty relevant. But he's optimistic. And then he says this, we actually spoke with Hezbollah for the first time. We didn't know they spoke. We didn't know they spoke.
Yeah, they thought they were all mimes,
They agreed yesterday they're not going to shoot. Israel's not going to shoot. Obviously, they're still shooting each other. We're just going to see. I'd like to separate it from Iran. Interesting you said that. And then he said, immediately...
But note, Iran doesn't want to separate it.
Iran made it very clear. Iran sent the request. Yeah, hold on. Iran sent the formal request to Pakistan today. There it is. So Arachi, after Trump made those comments, perfect, interesting timing, Arachi says the following. He was speaking publicly. Either the war ends both in Lebanon and Iran, or it ends in neither. The destiny of Iran and Lebanon in this battle are shared. The fronts are united from the beginning and until the end. I want to make it very clear, we informed all the mediators of this. An attack on Beirut means a return to war. Iran's armed forces are ready and willing to resume war against Israel at any moment. If Israel strikes Beirut, Iran will respond. We do not seek war, but we are able to continue the war against the US and Israel for a very long time. We have the capabilities for that. Hezbollah is a part of Lebanon and part of the Lebanese society. Nobody can do anything about that. Hezbollah's needs will not be ignored. So this is Arachi saying that after Trump's statement about wanting, and I think I take that statement. I never thought I'd say this, but I take Arachi's statement, and I've been doing this for a while now, and more seriously than Trump's, obviously, since over the last few weeks and months. It's kind of been clear.
Arachi's not a bullshitter, okay? I mean, there are, the definition of a diplomat, at least in the United States, a diplomat is someone who's paid to lie for their country. But I don't think Arachi is doing any lying at all. He's being very upfront and straightforward, which is, that's sometimes a little uncomfortable for Americans because foreigners are accustomed to the United States lying to them. I ran into that, when I was working after I left the State Department. I was still hired as a consultant to teach in a senior crisis management seminar. And I mean, we did over 60 countries around the world, countries in Thailand, Laos, Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, Israel. We even did Israel, Colombia, Paraguay, Argentina, all of them. And what was fascinating, this was particularly right after we invaded Iraq in 2003. It didn't matter from which country, didn't matter which culture, but there'd always be a conversation where at least one or more of the students would come up to me and say, okay, tell us the reality. What's really going on? Why is the United States doing this? Because they assumed that we were lying to them And I said, no, we're actually that stupid. We didn't. They thought we had some secret master plan and that this was being manipulated. So
In relation to what? To what exactly?
To why the United States invaded Iraq in 2003.
Oh, the Iraq War. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I still ask that question. I still want to know what it is. I still want to know why you did it.
Oil. Okay, oil in Israel. Sense. Oil in Israel. Those were the two reasons.
We're talking about Israel in that same interview. We were talking to the press. Trump was asked about the war, and he said, Israel, as part of a bigger statement, I should get the full statement. Israel needed us. They couldn't have done it without us. They couldn't have even come close. They needed us, and they got us to help them. Which is contrary to what he said earlier in the day that Israel's not the reason he did he started the war. He was asked directly, did Netanyahu trick you into the war in the morning? My morning. And he said, no, I did it. Okay, there is the full statement. I was reading the full statement. So Bibi Netanyahu has been, for me, a great partner. For other people, not so good. Israel needed us. They couldn't have done it without us. They couldn't even have come close. They needed us, and they got us to help them with a real problem, because Iran was a real problem, a big problem, a worldwide problem. That's the full statement.
Well, at least half of his statement was true, that Israel could not have done it without us. Yeah. Now, as far as Iran being a global problem, come on. Be serious. But, he's got to stick with part of the narrative. Because when they announce they actually have an agreement, and it's going to be, the U.S. will lift the blockade. Iran will still remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz, but they will have a firm agreement that Iran does not have a nuke. Now, to get that agreement, because whatever Iran has right now, I think they'd be willing to surrender the nuclear weapons and give them to Russia, give them to China for safekeeping, just as insurance. That because whatever agreement Trump makes is not going to be legally binding unless it's submitted as a treaty to the Congress, and the Congress approves the treaty with Iran. That then gets the United States officially, legally, into an agreement that, okay, we're not going to attack Iran with nukes. And we've got Iran's agreement that they're not going to have nukes. And now this is going to take some time to negotiate. This isn't going to be done over a weekend, because there are a lot of details that need to be sorted out. Because Iran's going to look for guarantees, I'm sure, from Russia and China that it's not just out there with his ass hanging in the wind, where it can get burned again by another surprise attack.
Another funny statement, last one. Reporter asked Trump, yesterday Iran blew up Kuwait's largest airport. Trump replies, well, that's not a big deal. We sort of provoked them a little bit. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, gotta love it. I mean, I made this, I started observing this yesterday thinking, isn't this interesting that Trump is, his tone has changed dramatically. And then with what Robert Barnes, because Robert was not acting on my information. I mean, we communicate, but he's got his own sources. He does have sources in the White House. And somebody said, that we got warned that they may have a nuke. So now we have to adjust our policy. Because the last thing that Trump wants to be is, and Robert made this point, and I think it's very sound, the last thing Trump wants to be is embarrassed. Look at what you've done. You've created another nuclear power in the Middle East.
Yeah. No. Like for him, it's even worse. Like one could argue it's worse for Trump that they demonstrate the nuclear weapon. That's worse for him than having it. It's like if they have it and no one knows, it's okay. But if they demonstrate it, then this will destroy my legacy.
Now, and then you saw what the U.S. the House of Representatives did today, right?
passing the War Powers Act, whatever it's called.
Well, they basically said that Trump can't go back attacking Iran unless he comes to Congress for a declaration of war.
It needs to pass the Senate, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it'll pass. You think?
I think the Senate's going to pass it.
I was thinking while you're speaking, though, this does remind me of one other time where he was maybe not as behaved as he is now and talking respectfully about the Mujtaba Khamenei, but he was also trying to de-escalate things. That's after Project Freedom. Dubai got pummeled, Fujairah got pummeled, they got struck, it was burning, and he doesn't even mention it in the post. And then when he was asked about it, he's like, they fired a few missiles, most of them were intercepted, I think one landed, limited damage, everything's fine. And then the UAE's got Fujairah that was burning. So it reminds me of then back he's trying to de-escalate.
Yeah, you're not suggesting that the United Arab Emirates has learned that while it's troublesome to be an enemy of the United States, it's dangerous to be its friend.
Who said that? Who's the American diplomat?
Kissinger.
Yeah. So yeah, then there is the other piece of news is something you already hinted at before we move on to Ukraine and Polyansky. Trump said that yes, he did call Netanyahu a fucking idiot, or whatever he called him. What the hell are you doing? You fucking crazy.
Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah, you're fucking crazy. What the hell are you doing? Everybody hates you. Everybody hates Israel because of what you're doing. I saved you out of, I got you out of prison. So then he said, then later he said, I have a good relationship with Netanyahu. He's a good man, etc. We're now on the same page when it comes to Lebanon. And Netanyahu tried to laugh it off. Just ask you again, now that we've seen this, you think it did happen, or you think this is all for show?
What, as far as having a nuke?
No. The call, Trump did call him out in the call, and all this is real.
I think Axios may have got it right for once. Because usually in the past they've been, what is the guy's name? Ravid?
Barak Ravid or something.
Yeah, Barak Ravid, and he's a former 8200 unit member.
Really?
Oh yeah. So they're guys that are involved with interceptions, information operations, collecting communications. So he's well plugged in, and I think on this case. He got it right. I think he was accurately reporting.
I think Trump intentionally leaked it. He wanted to embarrass Netanyahu for what happened in Lebanon. That would be my guess. It wasn't an accidental leak.
You're not assuming dirty politics, are you? Oh, heaven forfend. Sorry.
This is not even dirty, but this is clean.
I'm a sarcastic old man.